Bulletcast for life.
Welcome, boys and girls, to episode 7 of Under the Radar. My name is Brandon, and yes, this week I was not on the Bulletcast because right now I am in sunny San Diego on a little vacation and excursion, you might say. But that's not going to stop me from doing a podcast here. My name used to be Mr. No Days Off, and I'm going to continue that mantra. I might not be on the Bulletcast, but I'm going to be giving you my own little version of the Bulletcast. I will be going over big topics, talking about my time at the New Japan Cow Palace show. We're going to go over the Extreme Rules card, and of course we will do our NXT and Total Bellas recap. So let's just kind of go into chronological order, and let's just talk about this NJPW card. I mean, I didn't listen to what Philip had to say, but this honestly might have been my favorite wrestling show I've ever been to. Just top to bottom, it was just a great show. Every single match just kept getting better and better, and all the matches were different in their own special way. Of course, the big news coming out of it is Hiromu Takahashi breaking his neck on the move with Dragon Lee, and of course Jim Ross getting hurt with the spot in the Juice Robinson and Jay White match. Still going back and forth on which match I think is the best. I think coming out of the show, I think that the junior title match was probably the best one, but then now after everything that's happened with Takahashi and just kind of reflecting, I mean, it's definitely between the junior match and the United States match because they're just two different matches. I love the Cody and Kenny match, but I mean, I expected Kenny to win. I had thought there was going to be no reason and no way that Cody was going to end up pulling it out. It was a great match. Don't get me wrong. Probably Cody Rhodes' best match of his entire career. But yeah, so I mean, I was a little not inebriated. I had a few drinks, which might have helped my enjoyment of the show a little bit better. Got there about probably an hour before this bell rang. Waited in line, long line, definitely a lot longer than what we've had for APW shows. And then I waited in line for about a half hour for merch. Luckily, I was able to get there. I was able to sit down before the first match actually started, which was Roppongi 3K with Yoshihashi and Gedo going up against the Bullet Club, which was Haku Tamatanga, Tanga Loa, Yujiro Takahashi, and Chase Owens. Obviously, the Bullet Club won here and made a lot of sense going later on in the night why they went over. I mean, one thing coming out of the show was that the show was really long. Being there live in the crowd, I didn't feel like the show was that long, but obviously sitting there out on the couch. I mean, I remember the last one they had in Long Beach. I thought the show was way too long. I didn't even see the entire show. I missed like at least the first 2 or 3 tag matches because I knew nothing really special was going to go on with these matches. But being live, it's definitely something to see these people in person, and it was fun. I mean, the match itself was all right. I mean, Haku was over. The Tongans and the Samoans have a rich history in the Cow Palace and in the Bay Area wrestling scene, so fun to see Haku, Tamatanga, Tangaloa wrestle. And then we have another match, probably my favorite tag team match that I was looking forward to. That wasn't the one of the tag matches to get everybody in the card, and that was Ishii and Yano against Minoru Suzuki and Zack Sabre Jr. I was hoping that they were just going to kill Yano with Suzuki, beating the shit out of him, and Zack Sabre stretching him. But unfortunately, Toru Yano rolled up Zack Sabre Jr., and I mean, I wouldn't have done it, but I mean, I kind of understand Yano is kind of that person who can beat anybody, but then everybody can beat him, so it's kind of, it goes back and forth. Yano could honestly beat Kenny Omega in the G1 Climax, and I wouldn't be shocked by that. But then we have Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kushida going up against Hangman Page and Marty Scurll. This was fun. Hangman Page and Marty Scurll was super over. I know Hangman Page is somebody who is on the rise, and I would love to see him possibly do something in New Japan. Possibly he was in the U.S. title match last time with Jay White. I think he can be I don't know if you want him to be heel going up against juice, because maybe, especially with everything going on with being the elite, I think Hangman can definitely be a really top tier babyface. Maybe even in ROH, but definitely in New Japan. And shut up, dogs. Shut up. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. Then we have the open title, Hiroki Goto and Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb, local guy, wrestles. He came out with the APW Universal Championship, and I thought that was fantastic to see. We had an AP dub chant. I thought the match was good when Jeff Cobb was on offense. Goto was all right here. I felt like the finish kind of came out of nowhere. I thought it kind of ended flat. It didn't really have a nice crescendo like I thought it was going to have, but it is what it is, and this match wasn't set to steal the show, and it definitely didn't do that. So next up, we have the tag team match between the Young Bucks and LIJ, which consisted of Evil and Sonata. In this match, I wouldn't say it was as good as their Dominion match, but this was definitely an all-out sprint. They just hit all the high spots. I'm not going to say they weren't selling or anything like that, but I don't think it was as dramatic as Nick hurting his leg and not being able to make the hot tag, and Matt, having his back worked over, and the drama that was leading up to that match. But I thought this match was really fun. Of course, right now being it the first New Japan show I've ever seen, it's all kind of like the first WWE show I've ever seen. It's kind of like, it's exciting to see all your people that you never thought you would see before. And the Young Bucks were there. I mean, the Young Bucks were great. Evil and Sonata was great as well. I'm not knocking the match at all. I'm just saying that this match was really good. In terms of the top 3 matches, it wasn't as good. Probably the 4th best match on the show, but that's saying a lot in terms of how good this show was, and all the matches basically delivered. I wouldn't say any match really disappointed. Maybe Goto and Cobb disappointed a little bit, but where they were on the card, being fourth on the show, kind of being the end of the first act, I wouldn't say they were meant to do anything special, and they didn't. It was just cool to see Cobb get an opportunity in New Japan. And I don't think he disappointed. Hopefully it's the first of many opportunities for Jeff Cobb. Then, I think we had intermission after this match. And then we came to Okada and Will Ospreay against Naito and Bushi. It was cool seeing Naito and Okada start the match off first. Of course, Okada was it Okada that beat Bushi? Definitely somebody pinned Bushi. That was kind of my thinking. I knew that Naito and Bushi were going to lose, and Bushi was going to be the one to take the pinfall. A little obvious there. Will Ospreay doing some good. Him and Bushi. It was basically like, Naito was paired up with Okada, and Ospreay was paired up with Bushi. Naito and Okada didn't do all that much in terms of, they weren't out there to kill themselves. Sorry, not a good choice of words, and after what happened later in the show, but Ospreay and Bushi definitely delivered some good sequences, and it was a fun match. And then next up we have Takahashi against Dragon Lee. This match was just crazy, so many spots, and unfortunately the match has been hampered by the news of Takahashi breaking his neck with that just terrible looking suplex. And I mean, it's just difficult to enjoy the match, especially knowing what happened. I think something with wrestlers, especially in New Japan, if you take out the most dangerous 5% or 10% of the moves, the matches still would be great, and they probably would be as good, maybe even better, because you're not worrying about the health and safety of the wrestlers. Because the Dragon Suplex off the top rope that happened in the first Kenny Okada match, where Okada just basically fell on his head. It wasn't as bad as what Takahashi did, but it could have resulted in the same thing. And just some things like that, like the "Please Don't Die" chant. Honestly, that's kind of a real thing for me. When people are when Ospreay did, was it a Spanish Fly or something with Marty Scurll on the side on the apron, and he cracked his head and hurt his neck, and it's just, I don't like seeing that. I love great wrestling. I love high flying moves and stuff like that, and athletic ability, but just be safe. I don't need you to kill yourself for my enjoyment. And unfortunately, Takahashi is just someone who loves wrestling and does it for the fans and does it for the enjoyment of it, and unfortunately he just took it one step too far. I'm going to put blame on Takahashi and Dragon Lee for going through with this move, because I think obviously they had this move planned. I don't think like Dragon Lee, went into business for himself and just did that move out of nowhere. And I mean, both guys are held responsible for this. I'm gonna hold Takahashi just as much as I would hold Dragon Lee responsible for it. Obviously, the move wasn't hit as well as it should have been, but I don't think the move should have been even tried in the first place. Which, with how great that match was, you could have taken that move out and had another different kind of suplex or something. You could have done like a brainbuster or just some other move that is possibly safer and not, you're hoping that Takahashi is going to do a full front flip after a grueling 15-minute sprint that he's having, and he doesn't have that much time to flip over. It's in a tight space. I just think that move just shouldn't happen. Like in WWE, there's certain moves that are banned, like they don't want to do the pile driver or the tombstone. I mean, I don't think the tombstone or the pile driver is that dangerous. Obviously, Stone Cold had his neck broken with Owen Hart, but for the most part, I mean, honestly, the move kind of looks shit when it's done because like it's so clear that the guy's head's not hitting the ground. So I mean, in that case, I kind of like that people don't do it, because for the move to actually look really good is like, almost having the person's head like mere centimeters away from the ground and almost paralyzing them. But overall, the match was really good. In the moment, I thought that match was fantastic. Coming out of the show, not knowing about what happened, I thought it was probably the best match of the show. But after further consideration and just kind of thinking back on it, watching back, I have watched the show back. I haven't watched the entire thing. I've watched the U.S. title, the tag, I've watched a good amount of the show. I haven't seen all of it. So, I mean, I know what JR's commentary is. He apparently still is not pronouncing Los Ingobernables de Japón right. He like takes out a B, so it's like Ingobernales de Japón. He still calls Marty Scurll or whatever. It's just, I know he's up there in age, and I think it's more of that he doesn't prepare. I mean, I don't know exactly what's going on with JR. He's kind of a grumpy old man, and that kind of came across. I think he was kind of getting tired. He did step up for the last half of the show, and he, I mean, when it comes time to have the main event matches, he delivers, and he doesn't. I don't know if I would say he's better than Kevin Kelly, because Kevin Kelly knows his stuff and he knows all the stories and he can weave it in and out. But I just think it's a good, alternative for the New Japan audience, especially those flipping through on Access and see like, oh, it's wrestling. Oh, Jim Ross. I used to watch back the Attitude Era. I remember Jim Ross, and they just keep it there and watch the show. But I don't know how I got on this whole thing about Jay White and Juice Robinson. Probably because this is the match where JR allegedly broke a rib, but I think it's like a bruised rib and a bruised lung, and his doctor said he's in risk of catching pneumonia, which is what just happened with Vader. Obviously, we don't want that to happen. Not saying if you catch pneumonia, you're automatically going to die, but we don't want anybody getting sick here. But Jay White, Juice Robinson, I think best match of the show just because of the crowd atmosphere and the story they told. Juice Robinson had the broken hand, the promo. If you have not seen this Juice Robinson promo about him breaking his hand and having whatever it is, 206 other bones in his body that Jay White hasn't broken yet, like, go out of your way and watch it. It's on, I believe it's on at least New Japan's YouTube channel. It's somewhere. I saw it first on Twitter. Like, he cusses a whole lot, but just, it doesn't matter. It's just a great babyface promo, and this match was straight out of like the 70s or the 80s. Just everyone was just on Jay White, and they hated him. They weren't being ironic. They were booing him. Jay White was flipping the crowd off. We were flipping him off. There was a "fuck you, Switchblade" chant. Juice Robinson was over. This match going into it, I said it on the Bulletcast last week. I wasn't sure about how the reaction was going to be to Juice Robinson. I know people don't like him. Jay White might be kind of that cool anti-hero guy, and I wasn't a big fan of Jay White coming into this match. But coming out of this match, both of these guys I think have a high ceiling. Jay White, I think this was a coming out party for him. I always didn't think he really fit well with the Switchblade character, but I think he really came out of his shell here, and he was just a dastardly heel. All things aside of the spot with JR and Josh Barnett, which I don't think. As of this moment, it doesn't look like it was planned. and they did that. Hurt JR. I mean, in the moment, it was great because we didn't actually see JR fall over. Like at first, we kind of saw it on the big screen, and then because like we knew at that point that they were over there, so I didn't actually know that JR fell over, but we just saw that Josh Barnett came into the ring and stared down Jay White, and I thought that was great. I would love to see a Jay White Josh Barnett match down the line, possibly at a Wrestle Kingdom on an undercard match. I mean, I think that would be great, but just Juice Robinson selling the hell out of his hand, and the stipulation of not using the cast as a weapon, even though it wasn't even a cast, it was more like a wrap. The crowd pop huge once he hit the pulp friction after punching him with the left hand. Jay White kicked out probably the best near fall of the show. Crowd pop huge, and then thought maybe Juice wasn't going to be able to pull it off, but then in the end he rolls him up in a nice cradle. And Juice Robinson gets the victory, the new U.S. champion, and the first ever American to hold the United States Championship. He did not come out with sparklers coming out of his nipples and bald eagles shooting out of his ass like he said he would, but I think he was American enough. He looked kind of like an American Kyrie Sane with his pirate hat and his little frilly things coming out of his legs. But this match was fantastic. Definitely, if you have not seen this New Japan card, definitely see the last 3 matches on this show. They just are top tier wrestling matches. I wouldn't say any of them are in contenders for best match of the year, but this show can honestly probably be a contender for best show of the year. So then next up we have the IWGP Heavyweight Championship match with Kenny Omega defended against Cody. Cody comes out like a king, gets carried by these guys. I think one of them was an APW guy, and I don't know where the other people came from, but he comes out with Bernard the Business Bear and Brandy, and Kenny Omega comes out with the Young Bucks, Noah Bushi. Despite me wearing a Golden Lovers shirt to the show, I did not see the Golden Lovers, but the match was fantastic. As I said, they used a lot of gimmicks, which I wasn't the biggest fan of. They used a ladder. The big spot in the match was a superplex off of the top of the ladder. Cody hitting it on Kenny. They were teasing possibly a superplex off the ladder over the top rope onto a table that was set up, and yeah, the match was really good. 30 minutes, so I think you could have maybe cut out a little bit of it. I think they just wanted to give us that epic length match, but then also they had the TV time to fill up, and especially with the shenanigans that happened afterwards, they had to kind of stretch the show out a little bit, and even JR was a little ornery saying that the show was running a little bit long and he just wanted to go home basically. But yeah, so Kenny hits the one-wing angel for the victory. Doesn't look like anything's resolved, so Cody heads off to the back, and then the rest of the Bullet Club comes and joins Kenny. You know, they all hug, they go up to the ramp. Kenny cut the promo, and saying that he saw pretty much a full house. I mean, they said it was probably gonna be like 5,500 to 6,000 people. I would say that's probably a good estimate. The actual lower bowl was probably about 70% filled up. The entire floor was full. That's where I was sitting. I was kind of sitting on the like if it was a hard camera for WWE, I'd be like on the left side. But yeah, so then after that, they had the angle with the Tongans turning on the Bullet Club. Kind of a late angle. A lot of people probably left the building by that point, and I was almost about to leave, and then we turn around and we see like everyone looking, and the Tongans were beating the shit out of the Young Bucks and Kenny, and then the other people of Bullet Club come out to try to make the save, and they get taken down, and then Cody comes walking down with a limp, and they tease that Kenny was going to team up with the Tongans, but of course he doesn't. He gets the babyface pop, and then Cody gets taken down, and so then the Tongans leave, and the Bullet Club, what's left of the Bullet Club, obviously I think Bad Luck Fale is going to join up with the Tongans, so we have kind of well, technically they're not even like split off from the Bullet Club, they're just a different part of the Bullet Club. The Firing Squad is what they're being called. So everybody else from the Bullet Club is sitting there, and then they go up to the ramp, and then the confetti shoots off, and then we all go home happy. So, A+ show for me, probably best show I've ever been to. It's really hard. It's probably between this and WrestleMania 31. It's just, they're two completely different shows. It's the spectacle, first ever WrestleMania, but the high of Seth Rollins cashing in at the end of the show hasn't. I don't know if it'll top anything I've ever seen live in wrestling. I mean, not even. It's barely topped anything in sports. The only other thing was like I saw a walk off for the A's playoff game. That's probably the only comparable live moment I've ever had in my life compared to that cash in. But so yeah, onwards to a WWE Extreme Rules. Gonna go over every single match, kind of go over the build up they've had on Raw and SmackDown, so I don't have to go over Raw and the SmackDown and then the matches. So a match or a segment that was on Raw, I just want to talk about this briefly. They did the segment with Bayley and Sasha. They didn't even do anything. We barely even heard what they were saying. Don't know why they cut bait with Dr. Shelby, but it's probably because they knew this segment was shit and they're just kind of getting through it, and I don't know if they're going to become like a heel tag team or they're just going to feud, and it's just going to be something that nobody likes anybody in the match. But I appreciate that they helped us out by not having to deal with those terrible segments again. So on the pre-show, we have New Day against Sanity in a tables match. I don't really know what to say here. I mean, I think it's going to be a really good match. Unfortunately, this is on the pre-show. Now we have 4-hour shows now. Whew, boy, this it's going to be a long one. I'm going to have to be watching this in my hotel room. Don't know if I'm probably going to skip some matches, just go straight to the finishes. But I might check this out. I don't know. They've had a good build. Thank God Sanity stopped the New Day from eating all those pancakes. But they had the tag team match on SmackDown with Sanity and the Bludgeon Brothers against Team Hell No. I thought it was a good match. The shenanigans afterwards with Kane and Daniel Bryan, kind of silly, but that's kind of what they've been doing with Team Hell No lately. The shenanigans, it was fun, it was enjoyable to see, but it didn't really get me excited to see Extreme Rules. I would have much rather of them ended the show with Rusev and AJ Styles. I just felt like they could have. I know Rusev is kind of a transitional challenger. I don't know what they're doing with AJ at SummerSlam, but I just felt like they haven't built up that match enough. I thought you can possibly even headline with that match, but I think my bet right now to main event the show is probably Roman Reigns against Bobby Lashley, even though it is Extreme Rules and it's just going to be a regular singles match. Not a lot of extreme stipulations on the show, which I enjoy. I don't like the gimmick shows where they have every single match having a gimmick, because it just kind of diminishes the value of it, especially once it gets to the main event, and that's supposed to be the match you care the most about, and they have the gimmicks. By the time they use it, the crowd's numb to it. So fortunately, they have cut back on the gimmicks. A lot of singles matches and tag team matches with no gimmicks involved. So I'm going to go... It's a tables match, so I'm going to go with Sanity. Something that, New Day won't look that weak coming out of it. I don't know what they're going to do, if it's just one person has to go through a table, all three go through a table. Don't know exactly. But I'm going to go Sanity to get the win here. Next up, we have a steel cage match with Braun Strowman and Kevin Owens. I don't know exactly why Kevin Owens is the heel in this predicament. Braun Strowman's kind of been the bully, beating up on Kevin, put him in porta potties, doing some mean things to him. And this is a steel cage match, which is what a steel cage should be for, is to keep the heel from running away, and hopefully nobody breaks in. Sami Zayn out with the rotator cuff injury, so we can't have him to help out KO. I just think it's going to be probably a comedy. I hope it's not like a comedy squash match, and I think Braun's going to get the win here. Maybe if they do some sort of shenanigans like they did at the Greatest Royal Rumble, where Kevin Owens gets thrown through the cage and he lands on the floor, and that's the way he wins. I mean, I think that's the only way Kevin Owens wins, is him escaping the cage, or Braun Strowman just, obliterating him. Next up, we have a regular singles match with Finn Balor and Baron Corbin. I mean, it'll be a match. I really hope Finn Balor wins here. Baron Corbin, he's just Constable Baron Corbin, kind of the stand-in for Stephanie. It is what it is here. Hopefully Finn can get a good match out of Corbin. Kind of like the Goto-Cobb match. I don't expect them to do anything spectacular here. Even if this was like a main event with the WWE Championship, I wouldn't expect Corbin to, tear the house down with Finn. Even though remember Mitchell? He said that Baron Corbin and Roman Reigns would tear the house down together. So I'm still waiting for that match. But Finn hopefully gets the W. But I'm always scared when it comes to little guys going up against the big guys. So next up, we have the United States Championship match with Jeff Hardy and Shinsuke. Haven't done a lot in terms of building each other. They just kind of have had matches back and forth, some promos, not exactly talking, in each other's faces. It's not like a real blood feud. It's just going to be, two big names facing off with each other. Jeff Hardy coming back with the paint gimmick and the contact lenses. Should be a fun match. I hope they get the time. I think Jeff Hardy, as much as he's older and broken down, I think he can still deliver a great match when he's inspired. Shinsuke, once again, we've kind of talked about this over and over again. I just don't think he's really lived up to his potential thus far. We haven't seen that epic Shinsuke match. He's had some good matches with AJ, but obviously not the barn burners he's had in New Japan, which obviously, he's past, I don't know if he's past his prime, but he's up there in age. He's in the WWE. You have a long schedule. You don't want to burn yourself out. And I'm torn on this. I don't know where they can go. I think they can go either way with this one. Shinsuke just came out of losing a feud against AJ. But Jeff, he's kind of a big name, probably the number 2 babyface on SmackDown. I think I'm going to go with Shinsuke here. I think Shinsuke getting the title, and they can do a rematch at SummerSlam. Can set something up here. I really would love to see a Jeff Hardy Andrade Cien Almas feud for the United States Championship, and then you get that title on Almas. But with Shinsuke, he just lost so many matches against AJ for the championship. I don't see him going back up there unless if you get him off. Unless if Jeff beats Shinsuke, maybe beats him again, and then you face him off against somebody else. I mean, I'm just kind of thinking the SmackDown roster, Randy's out, and I don't want to see Randy face off against Shinsuke. I mean, Daniel Bryan, I would love to see a Daniel Bryan Shinsuke Nakamura feud, but I think right now they're definitely heading towards Miz and Daniel Bryan for SummerSlam, so maybe Nakamura and Bryan for the fall if Bryan re-signs his contract. But I think right now Shinsuke, I'm going to go Shinsuke for the victory here. I don't think it's going to be clean, but I think Nakamura will come out with the victory. So we have the secondary title for SmackDown. Let's go to the secondary title for Raw. We have Dolph Ziggler with Drew McIntyre going up against Seth Rollins in a 30-minute Iron Man match for the Intercontinental Championship. Drew McIntyre faced Seth Rollins on Raw, and I thought they had a really good match. And they had some good promos setting up this match too. Seth Rollins, probably the hottest babyface in the company. Dolph Ziggler has kind of rebuilt his image. Still, I mean, I'm still not the biggest fan of Dolph Ziggler at this point. I do think out of the 3 of these people in this feud, I think this whole thing is probably going to be built around Drew McIntyre. I think Drew McIntyre might be standing tall at the end of it. Maybe Drew helps Seth or helps Dolph Ziggler squeak out a victory. And then that's how we get Seth going into the Universal Championship match with Brock Lesnar. I doubt it. But a 30-minute Iron Man match, do you do some sort of chicanery with the tie? It is interesting how they have Dolph Ziggler with Drew McIntyre. So Drew McIntyre a wild card in this situation. I'm going to say Dolph Ziggler retains here just by the skin of his teeth, probably with the help of McIntyre. I just think Seth Rollins needs to get elevated to that main event level. And I know we all know it's going to be Roman Reigns against Brock Lesnar, but I just think Seth Rollins against Brock Lesnar, if you want to get that title off of him, I think Seth Rollins is the guy to defeat Brock Lesnar. You shouldn't go with Roman Reigns as much as Vince wants Roman to be the guy. Just, listen to the crowd, and obviously Seth is getting much better reactions from both the older males and the kids and the females. But obviously, I don't book it, so I just hope that Seth Rollins goes on to defeat Brock, but that's not going to happen. So let's get into the tag team title matches. We have the Bludgeon Brothers going up against Team Hell No. They've had the dissension between Hell No, which is kind of their shtick. Miz not on the card. Bludgeon Brothers. I think Bludgeon Brothers keep it here. Miz is going to probably interfere and screw over Daniel Bryan and Kane, and Kane's probably going to eat the pin here, and that's going to set up the Daniel Bryan and Miz feud going into SummerSlam. I think that's probably the main thing they want going on with Daniel Bryan at this point. As I said a little bit earlier, Daniel Bryan hasn't signed a contract, so we do not know where his standing is with the company at this point. I think we'll know at SummerSlam. If Daniel Bryan beats Miz, I think he's re-signing. If Miz beats Daniel Bryan, I think he's not re-signing. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see here. I think the match can be really good. Hopefully they kind of pair off Daniel Bryan against Harper and then Rowan and Kane. Hopefully they build to a really good hot tag to Daniel Bryan, because that is honestly what made him as hot as he was back in 2013, 2014. So, next up, we have Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt going up against the B Team, Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel. I think Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt are going to pull this off here. Bo and Curtis have been beating Matt Hardy in singles competition. They've kind of said that Hardy and Wyatt are better as a team compared to singles. And I think the luck of the B Team is going to run out here with Matt and Bray beating them. It's kind of a fun little gimmick here that they got. Once again, I wish the Deleters of Worlds would do more, funny chicanery at the Hardy compound. But I don't know if it just costs too much or if Vince just doesn't see what's the appeal to it. I don't know exactly where they're going here. Probably just going on to an Authors of Pain squash at SummerSlam and put the titles on them. So I don't think they thought that the B Team was going to get as hot as they did, but they did. I mean, it would be fun to see them as the champions and then go up against Authors of Pain. So I wouldn't put it past them to put it on the B Team and then have the B Team be the ones to lose against the Authors of Pain. But I think their luck is going to run out here, and the Deleters of Worlds will be the winners. So on to the women's title matches. We have Carmella and Asuka, and James Ellsworth will be suspended above the ring in a shark cage. So hopefully this means Asuka's gonna win clean. But I mean, last time they did this with they did it with Chris Jericho. I believe they did it with Enzo, and I think both times they've done some sort of thing where like the guy either escaped the cage or he like pulled. I remember Jericho, he had something and he gave it to Kevin, and that's how he won the match. So, I mean, I think Carmella, unfortunately, is going to win here against Asuka. I think this is building up to Carmella against Charlotte once Charlotte comes back from her breast implant surgery. So, yeah, that's what I'm going for, unless if they put it on Asuka and they want to do that WrestleMania rematch and have her, but they're going to have Alexa Bliss. I'm going to say Alexa Bliss is going to beat Nia Jax. But if they want Alexa Bliss and Ronda Rousey to kind of be like a squash match, probably, see the bully get her ass beat, and then have Asuka and Charlotte to be the real women's wrestling match. I can see them doing that, but I think they're having a lot of fun with James Ellsworth and Carmella at this point. I think they're just going to keep it, and they're just going to have two of the same matches on SummerSlam with, come see the bully get their ass beat once the real person comes to defeat them, with Charlotte going up against Carmella and then Ronda Rousey going up against Alexa Bliss. They already kind of buried the lead here. Alexa Bliss up against Nia Jax in an Extreme Rules match for the Women's Championship. I think since it's an Extreme Rules match, you already have the built-in excuse for Mickie James coming in to make the save or to interfere, and then you have Natalya come in to make the save. You can have kind of a schmaz, and then Alexa Bliss kind of hits Nia Jax with something, and that's how she gets the win. I mean, the build has been just blah. I mean, Nia Jax was kind of a heel up against Ronda, and now she's supposed to be a babyface against Alexa. This whole kind of feud is kind of a mess at this point because we don't really know who to cheer for. But it is what it is. Then next up, unfortunately, I'm going to go with this one first because I do not think they're going to have this as the main event. AJ Styles against Rusev in a regular singles match for the WWE Championship. This match should be fun. Let's see, it's in Pittsburgh. So this will be a fun, hot crowd. It's going to be fun to see what they go with this. Rusev started off kind of being a babyface up against Styles, but then as time progressed, he's been more of a clear-cut heel. I think Rusev's going to be motivated to have a really good match with AJ. AJ can have a good match with anybody. This is probably going to be the best match of the show. No gimmicks involved. I mean, I know everyone's going to say, oh, the Iron Man match with Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins. That match can be really good too, especially if they have it tied going into like the last 5-10 minutes of the match. But I think AJ and Rusev can have something here, and I'm going to go with them as having the best match on the show, and I think AJ will prevail against Rusev. So then we have probably the main event. We have Roman Reigns against Bobby Lashley, and in a show called Extreme Rules, this is going to be a regular singles match. So I thought they had a really good brawl at the beginning of Raw. They had some promos going back and forth leading up to this. Neither guy is all that likable in the situation. I think it's Pittsburgh. I think they're going to boo Roman heavily, probably be behind Bobby, ironically. Maybe they turn on both of them. I don't expect that, but I think Roman probably will be the heel in the situation in terms of the crowd's eyes. Always interesting to see what a Roman Reigns match does. He's a good wrestler. I mean, I know I hate on him all the time, but he's a really good wrestler. He delivers in the ring for the most part, but it's just everything else. It's just that's not the stuff I like. Especially when it was a couple weeks ago when he was just running down Bobby for like no damn reason, and he keeps calling him Bob. Like, is that really a babyface move? Calling someone by their name, calling somebody by a name that isn't their name. Like, it's a dick move. Come on, Roman. Don't be that guy. Anyways. So let's get into the NXT recap. Not a very eventful show in terms of moving storylines forward, but they had a lot of good matches on the show. So we're going to start off with Danny Burch up against the North American champion Adam Cole, non-title match. The other members of Undisputed Era were not at ringside, but Cole did not need their help. Beat Danny Burch clean in 8 minutes and 49 seconds. I thought maybe Burch might have got the upset victory to probably set up a title match down the line, but they didn't. Cole went over clean, kind of strong, especially in the end. Hit a couple big moves. Hit him with the last shot? Yeah, that's the running knee. And Cole went over pretty strong here. I mean, I don't know where they go from here. If they just have Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan go back into the tag team division, I don't know. Maybe they just kind of got this out of the way, and then they're going to set up the Ricochet match. We haven't seen Ricochet in a show or two. So maybe Adam Cole might cut a promo backstage, and they have a little interaction, and that'll set up their match going forward. So a good match to start off the show. They had a segment, not backstage, but outside in the parking lot area where Candice LeRae was outside talking. And she was talking about Lacey Evans, and then she confronted Shayna Baszler. Baszler was kind of nonchalant about LeRae, and then LeRae smacked the piss out of her face, and then they started having a little fight, and then people come in to stop it. A nice Steve Corino sighting, and so they just a little simple segment backstage and a little breakup. Don't know if they're going to set that match up right away for Brooklyn, or if they're just kind of teasing it and just kind of letting it simmer. But I think right now, Candice LeRae against Shayna Baszler is definitely where they're heading to right now. But the storyline is that Shayna kind of calls out everybody, and everybody wants a chance. But they will be having a number one contendership match next week for the women's championship match. So we will talk about that a little bit later once it's officially announced. But we had a backstage segment with Dakota Kai. She talks to Kathy Kelly, just kind of a simple promo. And then Lacey Evans comes out and she says that Dakota Kai is a disgrace, and she has the women's division needs someone with class and sophistication, such as herself. And Kai called her out and says she wants to face Evans next week. And that's kind of setting up another match. Yeah. So next up we have Kairi Sane against Vanessa Bourne. Don't not know a lot about Vanessa Bourne. She's kind of just she's all right. She is what it is. But Kairi Sane just beat her pretty clean. 5 minutes 52 seconds. It felt like a lot faster. Vanessa Bourne kind of got a little bit of offense in early, but then Sane made the comeback. I wasn't entirely impressed with what Vanessa Bourne had to offer here. Kairi beat her. And then she cut a promo afterwards saying she's going to come for the treasure. and stuff like that. And she did some sort of weird pirate dance, and she started like she did this pirate dance for like at least a good 30 to 45 seconds, and it went on way too long. It was awkward. I mean, Kairi's English and her enunciation in the promo, it was fine. We can clearly hear what she was saying. I really like having promos kind of after the match, kind of having that sports-like feel, because after the game, we'll have the on-field reporter come and ask people questions. So I like things like that. Obviously, this wasn't with the interviewer. This was just kind of Kairi going and talking by herself. And yeah, so they will have a fatal four-way number one contendership match for the NXT Women's Championship with Vanessa Bourne, Candice LeRae, Kairi Sane, and Bianca Belair. So that'll be fun to see here. I mean, obviously, I don't think Vanessa Bourne's going to win. I think it's definitely going to come to LeRae, Shayna, Kairi Sane. I almost said Shayna, but anyways. And Bianca Belair, I think Bourne might be the person to get the pinfall here. But, I mean, out of those three, I mean, I really think Candice in LA is probably the best place to have her, since she has that connection to the LA area. I think Kairi Sane is going to get the victory here. They've already had that match. They had a good match at the finals of the Mae Young Classic. I think having Sane face off against Baszler and having Baszler going over another hurdle, making her even more dominant, showing that she beat Kairi after Kairi beat her last year, can really set up something down the line. So, next up we have Aleister Black. Aleister was backstage, or he was outside, about to walk into the arena, and he was the off-camera person was asking him about Tommaso Ciampa. He was just kind of saying some vague things, and then Gargano interrupted and told Black that that Ciampa cannot be the NXT champion. And Black was like, yeah, duh. I mean, he can't be it because I'm already the champion. I don't want to be the champion. But anyways, that's kind of the vibe he came across to me. And then Gargano kind of stormed off, sort of continuing Gargano's kind of crazed persona. And out of nowhere, Nigel McGuinness was talking that Black was going to come out to the NXT arena later on, and then out of nowhere, Ciampa comes and attacks him, hits a DDT on the concrete floor, and Black was selling the hell out of it, and the announcers questioned if Black was going to be able to compete in the NXT Championship match in 2 weeks. So, we have to see where that leads to. Maybe Ciampa cuts a promo next week. And yeah, so we got one more week to build up to this NXT Championship match. And now we have the main event with the NXT Tag Team Champions Mustache Mountain, which is Tyler Bate and Trent Seven, defending against the Undisputed Era, which consisted of Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong for the NXT Championship match. As soon as the bell rang, Undisputed Era jumped onto Mustache Mountain, and Bate and Seven were able to get their wits together, were able to make a little bit of a comeback. They were going back and forth, and then the whole story of this match is they were working over Trent Seven's leg. He had a knee brace on, really working it over and over again. Then he was able to make the hot tag to Tyler. Trent was getting tended to by the physician, just selling the hell out of that knee. And then Tyler Bate was in trouble. He was looking at Trent, but then he realized that Trent was injured and he shouldn't come in, and so Tyler just went on without him, and then he, makes a little bit of a comeback, kicks out, yada yada yada, and then finally Tyler makes the hot tag to Trent. Trent's limping around, kicking ass on one leg, the proverbial one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. But then Kyle O'Reilly was able to snatch on a heel hook or some sort of leg submission onto Trent Seven, and the crowd was just super hot for this. Trent Seven was not going to tap out. Tyler just was trying to beg for the tag, almost came close to it a couple times. Trent was trying to roll over, get to the ropes, almost got it, but he just wasn't able to get it. And then Tyler Bate grabs the towel from the corner, and he was just selling. He's thinking about throwing in the towel, and he doesn't. And then Trent's telling him, "Don't do it." And then just finally, after back and forth and thinking, Tyler finally throws in the towel. So dramatic, great match. 17 minutes, 32 seconds. It was a great, great match. I mean, definitely go out of your way to watch this match. I know you already know the finish, but the emotion that was in this, and just the babyface throwing in the towel for his partner, even though the partner didn't want him to do it. And the story is that Trent Seven is almost like a father figure to Tyler, and he didn't want to see Seven's career end here. And it was just great. I mean, one thing that I was saying that was kind of not believable about this is how many times have you seen even baby faces come in and like kick, break up a submission when their partner's in it. Like, I know it's the honorable thing to do is to let your person get out of it. In the moment, like, it was super dramatic, and we wanted Trent. I wanted Undisputed Era to win, obviously, but it just, in the moment, they turned me around, and I wanted Mustache Mountain to win. Trent Seven was selling the hell out of that knee. Tyler Bate had great facials, great acting all the way around. But kind of right after he threw the towel, I was just like, it was really dramatic and it was entertaining, but why didn't he just come in and like attack Kyle O'Reilly to break up the submission hold? Because we've seen that done a 1,000 times. But it was a unique finish, something we honestly, I don't know if I've ever seen that in a wrestling match. I know they teased it in the Kenny Okada 60-minute draw last year when Cody was going to throw in the towel on Kenny's behalf, but I haven't seen it actually done in a long time. But this match was fantastic, definitely the highlight of the show. Everything else on the show was alright. Not a lot of storyline development here. But over the next 2 weeks, we're gonna have the women's number one contender match, and then we're gonna have the NXT Championship match. So the next few weeks of NXT should be a fun one. But speaking about fun, let's talk about the Total Bellas recap. Last week we did not have one, unfortunately, but this week they graced us with another episode. But before I get into that, last week I talked about the Glow series on Netflix, and it just came out that Glow is nominated for 10 Emmys. So good for them. A lot of it being, stunt coordinator, hair, makeup. I think Best Supporting Actress, which is the person who plays Liberty Bell. I think directing. Just a whole bunch of nominations for them. Hopefully they can win a couple. It'd be great to see Glow win it. I think they deserve it. I think it's a really good show. I think they also I think they're nominated for like best drama and comedy or something with comedy in it. But hopefully they can win a few Emmys. Even one would be good. I think definitely Glow deserves to be recognized as the Emmy award-winning television show. And some other women's wrestling news. We have some people being introduced for the Mae Young Classic, and the big news is Caitlyn, otherwise known as Celeste Bond in her real name, who has been wrestling on the indie scene for the last couple months. She's been training, getting back into shape. Looks really good. She has been announced for the Mae Young Classic. I really liked her work in. I think last time she wrestled in WWE was in 2014. I thought she was really good. I wouldn't say she's fantastic by any means, but I thought she was a likable babyface. She's much more athletic here. She's always kind of a muscular person. She was a little chubby back in her initial run, but now she's really leaned out. She's super muscular. Not as muscular as she was a couple years ago, but I think she's really kind of in that perfect zone where she's muscular and athletic, but not overly muscular. She's not like in the China category where maybe she might be too muscular and that kind of hinders her ability. But it'll be fun to see what Caitlyn can do. Don't expect her to win the whole thing, but I think it would be kind of like a Serena Deeb type story, someone who comes back into the fold and might win a match or two, and it's just a nice, fun story. So, onwards to the Total Bellas recap. Nikki, who apparently is still engaged to John Cena, is doing wedding planning all on her own. She has to do everything. Basically, she's been, doing all the wedding planning And for the most part, it's just her and Nikki doing all these things together, and she's kind of contemplating why it's even extra stressful because she has to pick for two people, and John's not involved because John's doing media and doing movies and blah blah blah. And then she also goes over that she doesn't want to have bridesmaids or something like that. She only wants to have two maids of honor, which would be Brie and somebody else, I think like her best friend or something like that. But that's Nikki. Nikki's side. Nikki is still stressing out over this wedding. She, I don't know. It's just so poor Nikki. She's a hard-working woman, and John Cena just isn't there for her. And maybe it's just time for them to break up and just not be together anymore. Which obviously I think is the case because when the news came out that the wedding was called off, I think they're gonna break up a second time, and I think this is the one where the news comes out because thinking about it now, they broke up around probably late December, early January, and no word came out about that because it was really close knit and everyone kind of knew that the wedding was going to be on Cinco de Mayo. So then now they broke up the second time, and then they definitely have to call off the wedding because everyone kind of knew when the date was going to happen, and then they have to be like, oh, when's the wedding? And then they have to tell everybody, and once you tell a lot of people, eventually the news is going to get out once you're not in that close group of friends. And on Brie's side, Brie apparently is an artiste and is getting into art, and poor old Daniel Bryan gets a fraud alert for $10,000 because somebody made a payment for art, and that ended up being Brie because she wanted to. I don't know exactly how this works. She put like a down payment for 10 grand with an artist, and the artist paints something, and after you pay like $32,000, then whatever the artist comes up with, then that's your painting, and then you own the rights to it, and you can sell it or auction it or do whatever you want to do with it. So basically, Brie threw away $32,000 for a painting she hasn't even seen yet. She just really likes the author, and then Brian kind of gives her a stern talking to about not doing things like that without his permission, because I think that's kind of a thing a couple should talk about. Is if we're going to spend $32,000, maybe we should talk about what we're going to spend that money with, because you can buy a car instead of buying a painting, which obviously paintings have nice returns. Brie said that you can never lose money on good painting or good art, which that can be subject to interpretation. Something else that went on with Brian is the Bella twins' mom apparently has anxiety when it comes to driving and other people driving in the car. And Brian kind of opened up to her about having anxiety himself and being fear of heights. But then when it comes to being in the ring, he's known for doing all these flying moves and going off the top rope and doing dives. So Brian was able to get her to do the indoor skydiving thing, which I have one about 20 minutes away from my house. Never done it. Always kind of thought it would be cool. But they went and did it, and it was kind of a fun little experience for the both of them. Kind of, the son-in-law bonding with the mother-in-law to get over their anxiety. Obviously, this isn't going to cure it, but it is a step in the right direction. Just another piece of evidence showing that Daniel Bryan is a splendid young lad. So that was it for the Total Bellas recap. Next week, they are teasing a 2-part episode with the bachelorette party in Paris. So it's going to be fun to see what they do there. Nikki rather, said that she didn't want to have any penises, no sexual things for her bachelorette party. But what's the whole point of a bachelorette party if you're not going to be sucking on dick lollipops and, wearing, dick hats or whatever they do over there? But they're just probably going to drink wine, have a good time, and hopefully we get to see Brie mode. But probably not going to see that until the Total Divas episodes. And then I think 2 weeks from now, then we got the Ms. and Mrs. episode. So as soon as Total Bellas is off the air, then we go right into Ms. and Mrs. We can get into those recaps. So yeah, thank you guys very much for listening. I told you this was going to be a mini bullet cast. I have gone 54 minutes talking about all the news of the week. Didn't even get into Brock Lesnar and Daniel Cormier. Obviously, Brock Lesnar comes out, pushes DC, challenging him, and Brock Lesnar is now in the USADA testing pool, so he will probably be able to fight in at least early January. And DC says that he wants to retire by the time he's 40, which is in March, I believe, so they're going to have to get that in before then, but it does kind of set up a weird kind of topic of conversation because DC was so hard on John Jones for using drugs and steroids and getting popped for those, but then he's taking a payday from Brock Lesnar, who just got popped for steroids against Mark Hunt and stuff like that. That is about it for today's podcast. Thank you guys very much for listening. Unfortunately, I will not be able to do the Extreme Rules instant analysis, but I will do my recap of it next week on the next episode of Under the Radar before the next episode of the Bulletcast. Thank you very much for listening or watching if you're on this on YouTube. Yeah, so thank you very much, even though I've said that about 5 times already, but I am very much appreciative of everybody who listens. So goodbye, and good night. Bang.